everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, March 4th. So, Phyllis's dad kicked the bucket this week, but not before dragging both of his daughters through the ringer yet again. It was heart-wrenching. Phyllis was very in check. She was clearly trying to keep her emotions under wraps, but the guy knows how to push her buttons. Just before he died, when he was just talking to Phyllis, he made a full confession. She forced it out of him. He told her everything about what had happened with his business, that yes, indeed, he did scam all of those people out of their money. He essentially chose money and power and status over the health of his family. And he did intentionally cause the mother and Avery to isolate Phyllis. Phyllis was the only one who saw the situation for what it truly was, and he chose his lie over his own daughter and forced her out of the family, forced her onto the streets, forced her into the life that we now know of her. And I really feel like this entire situation with the father explains Phyllis's character in a way that I don't think I fully understood before. Back when she was fighting for Lucy, fighting to take Lucy away from Billy and Victoria, I couldn't fully understand her motives. It just felt selfish and just somewhat unmotivated. I just couldn't totally wrap my brain around why she was so focused on getting this child. But now it makes complete sense. Phyllis never had a family. She never felt cared for. And so now that's why she fights so hard to keep together the one that she created. And really, when you think about it, going all the way back to the very first moments that Phyllis was on the show, she was fighting for a family. She had Daniel, and she wanted to give Daniel, I think, the type of lifestyle that she thought he deserved. So she was tricking Danny into thinking that he was actually the father when he wasn't, which I don't know, now that I think about it, in some ways, maybe that was her choosing status and wealth over the health of her own son. I don't know. Phyllis, out of that whole situation, became declared an unfit mother, and she's always carried that baggage. But, you know, it may just be very well that is her pattern. That's the way that she processes things. That was her learned behavior. And now she seems to be trying to make up for that. And I just feel like it's given me a really bright new look at Phyllis. She's trying to keep it all under control during these final scenes with her father. She's, you know, Phyllis is more like a tea kettle. It builds up until it just it spouts out steam. And there's Avery, on the other hand, who has a very opposite reaction. Avery overhears this confession that her father has just made to Phyllis, and she walks into the room and she says, "That's not it, Daddy, is it? You're just confessing to make Phyllis feel better, right? This can't possibly be the truth." And he at first totally backpedals. He takes back the confession, everything that he said, but it didn't quite work. Avery felt it. In this moment of hearing her father confess, she knew that Phyllis was right. And that, in fact, like, Avery's whole life is built on a lie. She fashioned her entire life on wanting to free the innocent. She saw, she perceived the situation with her father as a man who had been wrongfully accused of, something he didn't do. So she decides to become a defense attorney and get other people out of these situations all the time, never knowing that she was a complete fool. And whereas Phyllis was trying to be very strong in a situation, you could just see Avery starting to unravel, just slowly unravel and break down. And it had to have been totally humiliating for her, because Avery starts to realize that she was kind of the only one who didn't know. Phyllis knew, her mother knew, the dad confessed right at the very end that, yeah, the mom knew. How could she not know what her husband was doing? Where did she think the money was coming from? So it was really only Avery who, in a very innocent and childlike way, was clinging to this lie and now realizing that her entire life is based on it and it's falling apart. And I loved these scenes because I feel like I also got a really good sense of who Avery is out of this. And she, just the way that she was saying, "Mommy knew too? Does Mommy know too?" Just almost recessed. Like she's just never gotten past childhood. Just, I don't know if it was that was where the actress tapped into or what, but it felt so, she felt just like this betrayed little girl who wants to look up to somebody, always wanted to look up to her father, always wanted to look up to Phyllis, and just can't, and she's just clinging to these last little shreds of innocence while they're being ripped away from her. It was so good. I really, really loved those final scenes. And as the father dies, he passes away, and there's this brief moment where the two sisters are able to bond and realize that the father cannot hurt them anymore, that the lies cannot hurt them anymore. And they kind of, it coalesces. They decide that they can, be friends. Phyllis decides that it doesn't have to be a war anymore. And just slowly, it's, I think, at this time starting to sink in for Avery that it's too late. The battle lines have already been drawn. If the father would have died even one day sooner, everything would have been different. But the sad fact is now, while Phyllis was there visiting the father, at Avery's insistence, Avery was back in Genoa City freeing Daisy from jail. And Daisy subsequently turns around and gets a court order to take Lucy back. It's her daughter. Phyllis always only had temporary custody. So Daisy's back out on the streets and in Phyllis's home, and it's all Avery's fault. Not only was Phyllis right about everything in the family having to do with the father, but now Avery has just betrayed her. Ugh! Oh, it's so good. I feel guilty for Avery, and I feel heartbroken for Phyllis too. Phyllis has got to be having the worst week ever, having to drudge up ancient feelings about her father and then watch him die, just to turn around and get home and realize that this child you've been caring for is now gone from you, been taken when you weren't even home, that Daisy was in her home and took her child while she was away. Ugh. You guys, I have to tell you, watching Lucy get ripped out of Phyllis's arms was so hard to see. Just Phyllis wanting to cling to the baby as Daisy is pulling Lucy away. Kind of like how Phyllis ripped Lucy out of Victoria's arms just a few months ago, right? I am actually very impressed with how Nick is being there for Phyllis. He's hobbling around on his crutches and he's doing the best he can. When she was away visiting the father, he was taking care of Lucy and Summer and not only being there for her physically to help pick up some of the slack, but he's really being there for her emotionally. And this is what I needed in order to even consider getting back on track with Phyllis and Nick. It just seems like they go around in this circle and it's a pattern that never changes. And this week it just really felt like they were partners, like they cared about each other and he was there for her when she was down, and it felt so good. They actually had a conversation about their relationship, and Nick said, I'm sorry about everything that happened with Avery. That was a mistake. I'll admit that there was probably a part of me that wanted to get back at you, and I regret that ever happening. And Phyllis was very candid. You can tell that Phyllis wants so desperately to open herself up to Nick again, but she doesn't want to get hurt. It's been too many times of her getting hurt, and she gets knocked down and she gets back up and then knocked down and gets back up again, and you can tell that especially right now she cannot take going through that again. And she was very honest with him, and she just said, I hate what happened with you and Avery, but the real problem between us, the thing that ruined our marriage, was whatever you've got going on with Sharon. Which seems so dead now. Nick and Sharon cannot make it work, man. They cannot make it work. Sharon is clearly so tunnel visioned onto Adam right now, which I think is maybe one of the main reasons that Nick is able to let Sharon go right now. If Sharon were giving him the sweet eye, maybe the situation would be different. But for right now, Phyllis is saying to Nick, it's always felt like Sharon was the one that needed you. Sharon was the fragile one, and Phyllis was always the strong one. So you just abandoned Phyllis for Sharon because it always seemed like Sharon needed you. And she's telling him that I can't go through that again. It's always about Sharon and her weaknesses, and I can't go through it again. And furthermore, I can't always be the strong one. We're seeing a weakened Phyllis right now. She's really at one of her low points. And on the one hand, I so appreciate that Nick is there for her. And yet there's another part of me that I can't help but beg the question, given that dichotomy, given that knowledge that Nick kind of likes coming to the rescue, I just wonder, is Nick trying to get back together with Phyllis now because she's feeling weak? Is that it? Is it that he wants to ride in on his white horse and take care of her? I just think that it's a little bit strange. I'm being a suspect, but I wonder if it's a little bit strange that, he's starting to talk to Phyllis about their relationship in the midst of everything that she's going through with the death of her father and losing Lucy. Is this really the best time to pile on all of the pain of a broken relationship too, Nick? I just wonder. Because at this point, Phyllis is so down, I don't know that she could resist him. She's reaching out. She has no one. And he's being there for her. And I think we're just going to have to see where it goes. I am going to be open. I have been very impressed with Nick this week. And as long as he can stay faithful, then I have hope for their relationship, because Phyllis is going to need him right now. Lucy is in Daisy's claws and her clutches. Daisy's face when she came to take Lucy away was just pure revenge. And then later, Phyllis ran into Lucy and Daisy at the coffee house, and Phyllis tries to reach out to Lucy to touch her little hand, and Daisy says, no, Grandma. Daisy is such a bitch. She just is such a bitch. But you can kind of understand a little bit Daisy's point of view, because Phyllis did double cross her. Phyllis promised if she came back to town and turned herself in, then Phyllis would help get her an attorney and get her out of the larger charges. And Daisy held up her part of the bargain, even signed over temporary custody to Phyllis, and then Phyllis completely yanked the rug out from under Daisy, stopped paying the lawyer. So Phyllis double-crossed Daisy, and now Daisy's taking pleasure in taking Lucy away from Phyllis. And everyone in town is really concerned about it. Of course, Michael and Lauren, Phyllis and Nick, Billy and Victoria. Nobody wants to see Lucy with her mother because her mother is insane. And the only person that seems to be able to do anything about it, that would even have a chance of doing anything about it, is Daniel. Even Avery, who got Daisy out of jail, is now backpedaling and realizing that she saw Daisy for what she wanted to see her as, and that she's made a huge error. So even Avery is trying to talk Daniel into stepping up and doing the right thing, and Daniel is not hearing it. He's like a wall. He's just never opened himself up to this responsibility. And it's caused a wedge between me and Daniel. I've had a hard time getting back in touch with him since he shirked those responsibilities. And it really grates me that Daniel learned from Nick that Phyllis had gone to see the grandfather, his grandfather, and that he was dying and all that. And Daniel was very upset about it. He actually flew to Connecticut to the hospice to meet the grandfather, wanting to say hello and goodbye to him. He didn't. He got there too late, of course. But then later he comes back and talks to Phyllis about everything. And he's giving her this guilt trip about why she didn't tell him that his grandfather was dying, and like as if suddenly family was so important to Daniel. He'd been gypped of knowing his grandfather that he didn't even ever ask about before, never showed a whole lot of interest in before. Now all of a sudden he's got this family loyalty, and he's concerned with Phyllis keeping family secrets when he barely acknowledges that he's Lucy's father. It's so hypocritical. It's time for Daniel to suck it up. He's the only person that has any chance of going up against Daisy. Daisy is a convicted criminal, but she's still Lucy's mother. So if anyone is going to be able to get custody of her, it's going to be Daniel. He, I'm sure, has a case since Daisy is a convicted, vicious criminal, and he needs to do this. I need him to do this so that I can stand to look at him again. It's really bugging me. And also in that conversation with Phyllis, after they both got back from the hospice in Phyllis's condo, Phyllis tries to kind of broach the topic with him fairly gently. I mean, she in a couple different instances she's tried to broach the topic with him, and he doesn't want to hear it. He just throws up this wall and dodges her questions every single time. It's lame. It's lame the way as soon as it comes up, he runs away. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, this isn't a good time to talk about that, and he grabs his coat and has to leave. It's lame. And I was so happy to finally, at the very end of Friday's show, see Daniel coming around. I think it was witnessing that scene of Phyllis and Daisy at the coffee house where Daisy was clearly being mean to Phyllis. who has taken the responsibility for Daniel this entire time. Daniel wouldn't step up, so Phyllis stepped up. And Daniel witnessed this scene between she and Daisy, and I think that's what made him snap. And also, I do think the little conversation that he had with Avery made him want to step up a little bit more. You can't let your daughter be raised by this psychopath. And finally, he goes up to Michael and Avery, who are now kind of working together against Daisy, and he tells them that he is ready to fight, that he's ready to fight for custody to try to help his daughter. Finally! It's like, Daniel, how many people in your life have to tell you that you're being a jackass before it starts to sink in? Lauren got a gun. I'm surprised that Lauren did not go out and buy like a red gun. I'm less surprised that she got a gun and more surprised that it's not like red with sparkles on it or something. Or fuchsia, something. I'm like, I don't know, Lauren, does that gun really go with your purse? Well, she's carrying it around in her bag, and she's talking to Jill about it. Jill is the only one who knows about her, her, I guess, way that she's gonna start to combat this fear. The two women are sitting at Glowworm having martinis, and let me just give you one little slight piece of advice, Lauren. I don't mind you having the gun. I think it's great that you have a gun. Frankly, I don't really care if you take it out of your purse and wave it around at Glowworm. I think I'm pro gun. I'm pro Lauren having a gun. My only piece of advice for you, my girlfriend, is martinis and guns don't mix. Lauren and Jill are getting sloshed at Glowworm, and she's kind of peeking open the flap of her purse and showing Jill that she's packing some heat, and it's making her feel strong, making her feel good, especially when she's now, of course, going to be running into Daisy everywhere. Which, okay, your husband's a lawyer. Why is there no restraining order against Daisy? Lauren should have a restraining order against Daisy immediately, which would have prevented her walking up to Lauren in a restaurant, and which sure as hell would have prevented Daisy from getting an apartment right next door to Lauren. It's gonna be a showdown. It really is. I don't know exactly where we're going. I don't want Lauren to give Daisy any ammunition, so to speak. I don't want Lauren to end up making the wrong move and giving Daisy a leg up on her. I don't want Lauren to end up going to jail over all of this. And Daisy has this beautiful, perfect way of pushing all of Lauren's buttons. She knows exactly what to say, exactly what to do. The fact that she got an apartment in the same building as Michael and Lauren makes me want to scream. How can Daisy even afford to live in the same place as Genoa City's best and probably most highly paid attorney and the owner of a major department store with her name on the outside of the building? How can Daisy afford to live even anywhere near her? She just picks up this furnished apartment, and where's she getting the money? I don't know if this is a suspend my disbelief moment here, or if somebody else is working with Daisy. Who's sending her the money for this? She just got out of jail. She has nothing. She's never hardly had any type of job. How's she gonna afford to take care of this child too? How does she afford the diapers and the crib and all of that? I don't know. And oh my goodness, you guys. The element that I was not expecting was Ricky. I really didn't see that coming. But Daisy's new apartment is right across the hall from where Eden and Ricky are living, and Ricky already happened to bump into Daisy in the hallway. Whew. If those two become friends and start working in any capacity together, Genoa City, look out. who is this new guy and what have you done with Adam Newman? It's weird. It's real weird. Adam is rejuvenated. He's refreshed. He has a new perspective on things. He's starting to feel very strong and very capable and like he's his mother's son. Like he can do anything he wants to do. And all of that is great. He is overcoming blindness, which is not an easy fate, and he's back together with Sharon. She's wearing his ring, although that does not mean that they're engaged, but she's wearing his ring, and she's being there to support him, and this humbling moment for him this humbling problem that has affected him is now actually creating the kind of life that he's always wanted. But it's still weird. He is kind of broken in the same way. As much as he's strong, he is kind of broken. He goes back to Genoa City this week and goes to visit Victor. Comes in with his cane and looks defeated somewhat. Strong-willed inside, but just not the same Adam. I don't think he's ever walked into that office with anything less than a smug attitude, and now all of a sudden, he's got kind of this humbled look about him, and he tells Victor that he wants to make things right with him. Now, if I didn't think he was totally sincere, and I do, I would think that it was some kind of trick. Adam reaching out the olive branch to Victor? It was a very honest conversation between the father and son this week that it had to have been one of the best moments of the week, no doubt. Adam tells Victor that he wants to come back to Newman. Adam is responsible for losing Beauty of Nature. It was his attempt to get back at Victor that caused the company to become sold off, and now Adam wants to help Victor get it back. And yet at the same time, Adam is saying, I just want to do something. I want to have my penance. I don't care if you're going to put me in the mailroom or the washroom, it doesn't matter. I just want to come back and work for you and try to make things right. I want to be the kind of person that my mother was. And Victor at first, I don't think knows what to believe. I think he's suspicious as well. But looking at Adam sitting in the chair with his cane and his eyes all translucent, how can you not feel sorry for the guy? I don't think that he is after revenge. I think it's very genuine. And so Victor decides he's going to hire him back. Wow. I don't even know this guy. It's so weird. Victor, of course, had to poke him a little bit and say, are you aware of all the damage you've done? But he eventually kind of decided to set that aside and let him back in. And furthermore, it was so weird. Even the way Adam was calling Victor dad, it was different than ever before. Adam says, Sharon wants me to move in with her at the ranch. And I know you don't like this, but I need her, Dad. I need her. I'm blind. I need her. And wow, Victor agreed. He gave his caveat. He said, I wonder how long it's going to be before you end up betraying her again. I don't think it's a good idea, but all right, son, if that's what both of you want, that's what you can have. And also, surprisingly, while Adam was getting Victor's permission, Sharon was getting Nick's permission, and Nick just agreed, really without a fight. Just said, all right, you know what? You want to be with Adam? I'm not going to fight you. I'm tired of being the thing that's standing in between you and Adam. If you guys want to be together, so be it. I can't fight it anymore. So Adam's going to move in with Sharon. It just seems like his life is kind of finally getting back together. We all know damn well he's going to get his vision back eventually. But everything is he's becoming a real boy. And it's moving and touching and beautiful. The only problem is Patty. Adam was responsible for letting Patty out of the mental institution, nearly a year ago, probably? He broke her out. He gave her a disguise. He sent her on her way back into society. And when she came back into Genoa City, she caused a riot. She shot Jack, leaving him paralyzed and unable to walk. She threw acid in Adam's face, causing his vision to go away. She wreaked havoc all over town. She destroyed Jack and Genevieve's relationship. It never ends. And now, because Ricky has decided to poke his nose in and really ferret out what the connection was between Adam and Patty, it's all starting to unravel. Paul's getting involved. He found out what Ricky was up to and went to see Patty and just directly asked her how she got out of the mental institution, and Patty straight up told him it was Adam Newman. Now, both Paul and Ricky know. Ricky loves to take it a step further. For Ricky, it's just about coming out on top, and I think being seen as a winner. He decides that he is going to write a big story. He was the one that had a chance to talk to Patty before she was arrested, and he goes off and writes this story telling everything that he knows, including the fact that Adam was the one that turned her loose, helped her escape. And he goes to Phyllis with this story, wanting to publish it in Restless Style, and Phyllis has this moment where you really believe that she's gonna do it. It's a missing piece of the puzzle that needs to be told. And of course, I think that it probably never hurts if Phyllis can rub something into Sharon's face, but ends up turning the table on Ricky, gets him to sign a deal and take a check for the story and acts like she's gonna run the story, and then turns around and tells Ricky, nope, sorry, I bought it, but I'm not gonna run it. So Phyllis, in effect, buys Ricky's story in order to kill it. Why? Why? So that Jack doesn't get hurt anymore? So that it's just over? Why? Why did she decide to do that? And it doesn't really even matter because Paul is on the case and Paul is ready to confront Adam. And in the absence of Adam being there, Paul decides to tell Sharon. He's going to tell Sharon the whole story, that Adam was responsible for this, just adding to the list of things that Adam has done. And granted, everything is Patty's word against Adam, and Patty is a total psychopath, but the fact remains, Adam was at the institution at the same time as Patty, and it very well could put him in the wrong place at the right time and cause a seed of doubt and plant a seed of doubt in Sharon's mind. The question is, once she hears this information, is it going to blow apart this whole nice little world that they are starting to create? So after all of this courting and all of this champagne and dinners and negotiations between Victor and Genevieve, Genevieve decides to turn around and ask Victoria to be the new CEO of Beauty of Nature. Why did I not see that coming from a mile away? I should have seen that coming, and I just didn't, and I almost can't believe it. But Victoria, her mind is just not on business right now at all. Genevieve offers her the position, and the way Genevieve positioned it, the way she offered it, was sort of like, this would be a good way to get back at your dad. I mean, Genevieve is very well aware of all of the turmoil that's going on in the Newman family, and she wants to one-up Victor. But, yet, at the same time, I get the impression that she wants to seek his approval so badly. Victoria accepts the position at first, and what's the first thing she does? She goes to Victor's office and she has to tell him. Of course, he already knew, but she wants to rub it in, and it almost annoyed me a little bit that Victoria acted like she was just telling Victor as a courtesy. She's just trying to be professional. But we all know that she wanted to rub it in Victor's face. She wouldn't have even considered taking that position if she didn't know that she was getting something that her father wanted. She wanted to rub it in his face. Otherwise, she's happy to be a mommy right now. She wants to play house with Billy. She wants to play Father Knows Best. She wants this idyllic little home life, and running a major company like that doesn't even fit in to what her plans would be. She wanted to stick it to Victor, which is fine, but let's not pretend, Victoria, like that's not what you want. And I feel similarly about Genevieve. She has courted, or let Victor court her for weeks with Beauty of Nature, and then she thinks that she comes up with this brilliant plan to hire his daughter and goes to him to tell him about it as if he's going to be proud of her. I think Genevieve is just so used to being in these competitive, sick relationships that's the only thing she knows how to do. She tells Victor she just hired his daughter knowing that it's going to piss him off. She knows it's going to piss him off. And yet she's sort of looking for his approval, saying, oh, I thought you would be proud of me. You have to admit, this is a good move. This is a brilliant move on my part. And Victor's like, all right, you want to play hardball? You stop playing this catty game with me. If you want to play hardball, let's play hardball. It's on. And she seems shocked by it. Why? Why are you shocked, Genevieve? If you decide that you're going to play with fire, you have to at least be prepared to get burned. I hesitate to even broach this topic because I could talk for an hour just on this, and I need not to. But after everything that has happened with Victor, the lies he told to Nikki, the lies he's told to Victoria, everything he did, bringing Chelsea and Anita into Genoa City to try to ruin his daughter's marriage, which is despicable, Victor decides that he needs to try to mend fences with Nikki. And he calls her this week, and she's very bitter. At first, she does not want to have it. She does not want to talk to him. She's talked out. But she agrees to go out to the ranch to meet him to discuss whatever it is that they need to discuss. Oh, this made me so mad. She shows up, walks in the front door. Oh, this just really irks me. And Victor, he has candles all over the place. And he just shows up, it's dimmed lighting, and he walks into the main room with 2 glasses of sparkling cider. It irks me that he thinks that that's going to change anything, that he thinks that that's going to make up for the lies. Well, my girl Nikki promptly walks around the front room, blows out all of the candles, takes the glass of sparkling cider from Victor's stupid hand and drops it on the floor and lets it crash into a million pieces. And she tells him, look, this is not the way that you're going to get me back. Candles and cider do not cover up your lies. And Victor's like, baby, this is his response. I hate him right now. His response is, I just thought that these things might help us talk better, might help us relax and not argue. Give me a break. It's classic Victor Newman. You think that you can buy her and woo her away from her valid argument. Whereas his argument, their conversation was it was almost shocking to me. His argument about why he lied, I mean, Nikki's confronting him saying, you lied to my face, how can you make up for that? His whole argument was, well, I'm a bastard. You know it. Get over it. Get used to it. It's who I am. And Nikki falls for it. I just don't know. when it's right to forgive and when it's right to move on. I feel like the lines are so blurred for me. And it's not making it easy. Nikki tried to resist, but then finally says to him, all right, I'll give it one more shot. I mean, how many one mores? How many one mores? But she has one condition that she is not budgeable on. Victor has to comply. And that condition is no more lies. No more lies, Victor. If you tell one more lie, it's over forever. Oh. And his response was like, okay, I'll try. He didn't even say, I promise. There was no conviction. I will never lie to you again. I will force the truth out of myself. I will do anything to make this relationship work. Being honest is a pillar of being a decent human being, and I want to be that for you. None of that. It was, I'll try. But how long? How long will you try? How long will it last? Hours, days, weeks, months maybe if we're lucky? You know it's only a matter of time until the lies are back and the relationship is headed down the path of destruction yet again. Place your bets right now and let me know how long you think this relationship is going to last, because it ain't long. It just ain't long. Ugh, it just kills me. And in some ways, I feel like Victoria and Nikki are very similar in this way, because for as much as Victor is a jerk, I think Billy's a jerk too. I have not forgiven Billy. The scenes of them this week chasing each other around the house, him kind of grabbing her butt, or, you know, whatever, they've obviously just had sex, or it's supposed to be cute. It doesn't work for me anymore. I'm trying. I want to like Billy and Victoria, but I can't forgive him for his lies and screw-ups. And I feel like Victoria is just seeing what she wants to see. And it's the same thing with Nikki. They're both just seeing what they want to see in their man. And it's going to end up getting them both hurt somewhere along the line. For Victoria, especially, because I think that Victoria wants her relationship with Billy to work, especially because Victor doesn't want it to. I wonder how much of her has even conceptualized that. I wonder if she realizes that ever in her weak moments. I wonder if she knows that she's kind of wanting to make it work with Billy so bad, in part to prove Victor wrong. And that's not a healthy basis for a marriage. I think I'm so upset. I think I'm getting the hiccups. So ridiculous, Allie. I just feel passionately about it. And, you know, in the same way that Nikki and Victoria are alike on this, Billy and Victor are way more alike than either of them realize. They're both liars. They're both manipulators. I would hate to be the woman in either one of their lives, frankly. How great is Peter Bergman this week? It's moving. It really is. Sarge, the drill sergeant, Dr. Drill Sergeant, is not only helping get him into physical shape, but he's helping get him into mental shape as well. It's really quite touching. Jack is in this position where he has to learn how to start all over. He's such a strong man. He's built so much of a world for himself, and now it's all gone. It's like starting at point zero all over again, and it's like a mental exercise too. Sarge is giving him tough love, He is challenging him in a way that he needs to be challenged, and Jack has such a small chance of ever being able to walk again, but Jack believes in this guy, and beneath the tough surface, this guy clearly believes in Jack and is giving him what he needs, and it's very inspirational, I think. The Sarge, who, I don't know who he is. Is he someone I should know? He seems like he might be someone I should know, like a famous actor, but I don't know him, and I suspect that whoever he is, he's gay. It's just, there's so much gay under there. Maybe it's just acty, but it just feels very gay. But it's wonderful, and there's a message of hope, I think, in there, and as Sarge is down on the ground, like, just encouraging Jack, but in this tough love sort of way, he was saying something like, fear, it's your fear that you gotta get over, and you know what fear is, Jack? It's failure expected and received, and I just identified with that, and in the way he's coaching him, he's coaching Jack back to health, I'm taking some kind of inspiration from it. I know that's dorky, but I am. He just, I don't know. We can do anything we want to do if we just put our mind to it. Even if there's a 1 in a million chance, we can do it. And in the meantime, it's just such a good journey. I think that Peter Bergman is so awesome. He's like grunting and groaning all over the place, trying to sit up for the first time or trying to walk, and his face is turning all red, and it's, I love Jack. If anyone can do it, he can. Harmony is such a firecracker. I just love her. I love her in every conceivable way. Harmony and Tucker and Devon and Neil are all in Dallas this week for Devon's surgery, and they went out for dinner, and they're just all hanging out at the table and having a good time. And the way that Harmony is ripping on Neil, just telling him he doesn't know anything about music, telling him that he can't dance, and I'm telling you, you guys, it is Drew incarnate. She is better than any of the other actresses that they've ever had in there trying to replace Drew. They've been trying to replace Drew since the woman died, and it's never been successful. They've never had someone else in there as compelling, and Harmony is so good. Y&R is giving us what we need here. Does anyone not love Harmony? I need to know. If you don't like Harmony, give me a reason why. I gotta hear it, because just for me, she's just hitting the spot, and I can't help but wonder about the actress. I know that she was on one of the other soaps, not sure which one, but anybody who watched her or is familiar with her work, was she like this on her last show, or is this just totally being created for Y&R? I need to know that answer, because it is, it's just phenomenal. She's just phenomenal, and I love seeing her interact. I loved seeing her dancing with Neil. And it brings out such a wonderful playfulness in Neil that we just have never seen. Even when Neil and Sophia were having their little flirtation, it was just mild. It was almost naughty. Almost their thing was almost because she was dating his brother. But Harmony, they just have this wonderful passion, this wonderful connection that I've never seen it. I've never seen it since Drew. I love it. I love it so much. And everyone in Harmony's life is suspicious of her. Here she's trying to get a clean start in more ways than one. She wants to be a better person, and she's trying really hard. She's trying to be a mom. She's trying to be a friend. She's trying to be a working girl, and everyone in her life is suspicious of her. Neil accused her of using again this week. They're at the restaurant and she's really hyper. I kind of can't blame him because she was really super hyped up. She's dancing and running around and woo woo and trying to get her drink and going to the jukebox, and she just is so excited, so pumped, and it came off as a little bit flighty. Neil was trying to have a conversation with her even, and she just could barely sit still. And I can't blame Neil for thinking the worst of her. Neil was in her life when she was using, and she ruined her own life. And that was something that Neil had to pick up the pieces on. Harmony's sitting at the table talking about how proud she is of Devon, and she's saying stuff like, he's my son is at the top of the Billboard charts, and she's proud of him, which is awesome for her. I think it's all coming from a good place, but at the same time, she's now all the way back in Devon's life, and it puts her in a position to hurt him, unfortunately. And Neil was in Devon's life while she was off being a crack addict. So it makes sense that Neil is just looking out for his son. So I can't blame him. And, couple that with the fact that you just never really stop being an addict. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict, and it is a struggle, and she's talked about that, and you never know what a trigger is going to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be something negative. It could be something positive. It could just be, oh, I'm feeling so good, I'd really like to take this to the next level. So it's certainly possible that she could have been using. Neil confronted her about it, and she was like, you need to back off. Which she always says. She always says something to that effect whenever anybody crosses her wrong. But in the end, she was able to prove to him that she wasn't using, and Neil and her ended up connecting over it because Neil used to be a miserable drunk. There was a long period of time where Neil was a drunk pain in the ass. I hated that so much. He was a miserable drunk. It was awful. And so at least Neil has this point where he can identify with her, and that gives them a connection. And they're off dancing and having fun, and Devon and Tucker are still sitting at the table, and Tucker's looking at her, kind of realizing that she's interested in Neil. I think that Tucker realized it before she realized it. I think Harmony's just a good time gal. She wants to hang out. She wants to have fun. Neil is her foil. He's almost so straight that it gives her someone to poke at. She likes making fun of him. And Neil, I think, enjoys that attention as well. It is a very similar dynamic to him and his first wife. So it's obvious to Tucker. It becomes obvious to Tucker that there's a little bit of something going on. But let's not forget that Tucker is Sophia's best friend. Remember Neil's wife, Sophia? Yeah, Tucker's her best friend. So Tucker even pulls Harmony aside and tells her, you know what? You're having a little too much fun here. I think that you need to back it off and remember that he's married. Damn, everybody in Harmony's life coming down on her. Okay, you guys, that is gonna do it. That is the end for me for this week. I think it's been a good week. I've really enjoyed the show. I've been a little down. I know. You probably can't tell. I hide it well. But I've been a little down this week, so I've really been getting into YNR. I wish there was extra episodes of YNR. When I'm feeling down, I just wish that I could watch extra YNR. It makes me feel good. It helps me get lost. But there's a lot of ways that YNR kind of helps work through stuff. I get very, very passionate about the Nikki and Victor and Victoria and Billy thing because it reminds me of things that are going on in my own life. And that's really all this is. Any opinion that I have on the show is a total projection of experiences that I've had in my life. That's all we can do. What else can we do? YNR is just this blank slate, this screen, this thing being projected, and we're just we're just seeing it through our own little windows, tainted by or frosted by whatever our experiences are. So it helps me. I took, I was frustrated about Victor and Nikki, but then I felt inspired by Jack. So YNR's got a little bit of everything. I was feeling Phyllis this week. Yeah. I love my show. I really love my show. I heard, by the way, that YNR got its contract extended until the year 2014. So we have at least 2 more years of YNR that we can talk about. I would be so sad if it ever got canceled. I know that they recently canceled the Daytime Emmy Awards or something like that. I don't know if there's been any updates on it, but they at least tried to cancel the Daytime Emmys, which is not very encouraging for the brand, for the whole genre. It's not very encouraging, but I'm keeping my faith and just looking forward to a future that I really hope is there with YNR. So it's your turn, you guys. What are your projections? What are you thinking about this week? Please leave me a comment and let me know. I always love corresponding with you guys. I didn't have a chance to do as much corresponding last week. I was really kind of down this week, but I'm feeling better. If Jack can do it, I can do it. So leave me a comment and I'll be sure to respond and read and soak it all in and absorb and take it all into consideration for next week when I'm watching the show. And I'll be looking forward to talking with you guys about that when the next time comes. Don't forget, next week you gotta spring forward your clocks, March 11th, I guess. That would be the Sunday. So, on Saturday night when you go to bed, turn your clocks forward. Don't forget. There's a little public service announcement from YNR Chat. I love you guys. I've babbled enough. Have a wonderful week. I'm thinking of ya. See you next time. Bye.